It was a mundane Tuesday afternoon. I was yawning, standing in the vast IKEA store, when a teenaged boy walked in. He wore a purple hoodie with a pair of black joggers. His hair was parted in the middle, which kind of gave his sharp face a creepy look. He probably had too much gel on his hair, which is why his head shined like fine silk. I have been working in IKEA for the past 3 months, and this was the first time I saw this boy. He stopped right in the middle of the store and looked around like he was searching for something. I wanted to ask him if he was looking for something, but our manager had this strict policy of not bothering a customer until they ask for help themselves. So I patiently waited for him to come up to me. He stood like that for a few minutes, then looked at me. As our eyes met, he kept staring at me. I called out to him without leaving the counter.
Can I help you?
He pointed to a corner and said,
There was a red high-back chair here last night. Where is it?
So, he did come here before. I generally work the day shift, so it wasn't a shock that I didn't recognize him. I politely replied,
The armchairs and Chase Lounges collection has been shifted to the business place sections, so you go straight, take a left, and you'll find it there.
I expected him to go look for it, but instead, he got really angry and asked me a pretty weird question.
But why did you move him?
Him? I was now even more shocked to hear him personify a lounge chair.
Sorry, but we're remodeling this place, hence the store manager decided to arrange it per his convenience. He doesn't like that, stupid people!
He didn't wait for my answer and went to the business section looking for his high-back chair. I was blown away by his strange behavior. What the hell is wrong with this kid? I waited at the counter, thinking he would come back and ask me to do the billing for his favorite chair, but after half an hour, I saw him leaving the store without saying anything. I was handling another customer, so I couldn't ask him what exactly was his purpose to come here. I felt curious. What is so special about that common high-back chair? During my break, I went back to take a look. The chair was standing in the corner, just like every other piece of furniture in the store. There was nothing around it or on it that could tell me what the boy did when he came this afternoon looking for it. The store has a security camera, so I decided to check the footage. Carl, our store security, was watching funny videos in the CCTV room when I entered and asked him to show me the footage of this afternoon. He played the particular segment where the boy is seen walking to the business place. He came near the high-back chair and hugged it. Yes, I'm not lying. The grown-up teenage boy hugged a chair like it was some human being. For the rest of his stay, he talked to that chair. It was so creepy to watch. He was laughing and making a funny face at the chair like it was a human being. There's this one time, he even looked at the camera with the same angry face. His expression showed that the fact he was being recorded while talking to a chair pissed him off.
What the hell's wrong with him? I have no idea.
That night, I could barely sleep. The boy was so mysterious. His actions made no sense. I was definite that the next time he comes in, I will follow him secretly. The next day, I went for my lunch break. When I came back, Carl rushed to me and said,
The boy's back.
Without wasting a single second, I went to the business place right where the high-back chair was kept. I pretended to clean a nearby corner so I could overhear him. Surprisingly, he was so into the one-sided conversation that he barely noticed me. He was sitting on the floor.
But Dad, Mom won't believe me. I know she loves me, but why did she keep saying you're gone? Why can't they see you as I do? I miss you. I'm saving up so I can take you home. I won't let you stay here longer. Yeah, it was fun to hit him with that rock. But he said you died. You're not dead. You can't die. I won't let you. I will fight everyone who will say things like that about you.
Suddenly, I knocked the mop on the wooden table, and the boy turned around. His eyes were bloodshot. It felt like he was going to lunge at me and stab me to death for eavesdropping. I got so awkward that I quickly walked away. I couldn't hear the rest of his talk, but when the boy left the store, he gave me a death stare. What the hell was he talking about? Does he think the chair is his dad? But why? I could tell that his dad passed away, but that was an unusual way of dealing with grief. I secretly followed him. He walked to the next block and then took a right. I did the same. He stopped in front of a small 2-story house and then got inside. So, this is where he lives. I knew it was none of my business, but I was concerned about this young fellow. Gathering all my courage, I rang the doorbell. I was expecting him to open the door, but instead, a woman in her late 40s came out. Her eyes looked puffed from a lot of crying.
Yes?
You don't know me, ma'am, but there's something I need to tell you. The boy who lives here, is he your son?
Yes, but why? Did he do something?
I told her everything. As soon as she got to know about it, she broke down in tears. And finally, I got to know the other side of the story. The boy's name is Jason, and 5 days back he lost his father to a heart attack. They were all watching TV after dinner, and his father was smoking, sitting near the fireplace on his favorite high-back red chair. His father passed away on that chair, and since then, he developed this freaky habit of talking to their chair like his dad still sits on it. He was sent to a psychiatrist who advised the family to get rid of that chair, but once they did, the matter turned to worse. Jason now keeps searching for the same kind of high-back chair and talks to it like it's his father. Now I understood why he hugged that chair and came every day to the IKEA store to spend time with it. There was nothing I could do to help that poor boy, but after that day, he came to the store twice. I didn't disturb him and let him have his space, but the story doesn't end in a good way. I was on sick leave for a week when Jason came to the store with a gun, sat on the chair, and shot himself. He couldn't handle the grief of losing his father unexpectedly. I'm still working in that store, and the manager burnt the chair after this incident. Whenever I get time, I visit Jason's mom because she is now all alone in this world. I hope wherever Jason is now, he has finally reunited with his dad. May God rest their soul in peace.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video. If so, please leave a like. And also, a small percentage of people that watch my videos are actually subscribed. If you want to support this channel and make this channel reach the 1 million mark, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can change your mind later. Enjoy.
Ever heard of the SCP Foundation? You know, the fictional universe where they supposedly have trapped many monsters and strange beings. In case you have, how would you feel if I told you it was real? Well, to tell you the truth, I don't know if it really exists, but after experiencing what I experienced that Friday afternoon in an IKEA, I refuse to believe that these are just internet stories. Some of it has to be true. It all started several years ago. I was still small and knew nothing about SCP, conspiracies, monsters, or the internet. That day, my parents took me to IKEA, and I'm not gonna lie, I was really bored. I started walking around IKEA while my parents were asking for a couch, and I remember something caught my attention. I came across an aisle that stretched way too far. There was furniture everywhere, but no one was looking. I started walking and walking until the front door was almost out of sight. When would the hallway end? I had to find out, so I just kept going.
Ace! What do you think you're doing here? What did I tell you about sneaking out while Mom and Dad are shopping?
I'm sorry, Mom.
Do you know what can happen if you get lost? You can get caught by a bad man, or even a monster. Would you rather be with a monster than with Mom and Dad?
No, Mom. I'm sorry. I knew there was no such thing as monsters, but I still nodded. My mom started walking with me in the direction of my dad, but I needed to know what was at the end of that huge hallway. I started to walk slower and slower until my mom passed me, and at that moment, I took the opportunity to turn around. As soon as I saw that my mom had gained some distance, I ran as fast as I could. I was back on track. After going a few seconds ahead, I got tired and stopped. I assumed my mother would be behind me, furious, putting her hands on her hips apprehensively as she always did. But no, there was no one behind me. I looked back and could no longer see the entrance to the IKEA, nor could I see my parents, other customers, salespeople, nothing. Somewhat confused, I kept walking forward, hoping to at least find another exit. I walked and walked, at times even ran. How many minutes had passed? How could this place be so big? I was breathing harder and harder and getting more and more nervous. I was alone in a harmless IKEA, well lit and safe, but at the same time, something was wrong, as if something inside me was telling me that I was in danger. When I felt I was about to start crying, something filled me with calmness and hope. I saw an IKEA employee with his back turned. He wasn't doing anything. He was just standing there looking at some appliances.
Sir, I think I'm lost.
The man had no face. Terrified, I started walking backwards. He just followed me at a very slow pace, but without stopping. I ran and ran as much as I could. Many times I thought I had lost him, but I could only see him far away, walking with tranquility that terrified me. Time passed and I could see that he was getting closer and closer to me. Was he walking faster? No, I was getting tired. Exhausted and full of fear, I fell to the ground. The being dressed in IKEA stood in front of me, and when I had already given up, he simply did nothing. He just stood there, watching me, without reacting. It won't do anything to you, kid. It's still daytime. They only attack at night.
Who are you?
You're lost, aren't you? This place is not for children.
Where are we?
In IKEA, I guess. I've been here for months and I still haven't found my way out, but I think I'm close. It must be around here somewhere. There are a lot of people like us. Follow me.
But I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I want to be with my mom and dad.
Mommy and Daddy are not here, child. Come with me or you'll die.
Attention. We ask that the last customers go to the cashier area. Our business hours are now closed.
Not good. I have to go. I'm sorry, kid. You would have been a burden anyway. Sir, this area is for employees only. I'm gonna ask you to leave. It was another faceless IKEA employee. It was identical to the previous one, but this one looked different. He was much more aggressive. His voice was scary and dry, but the weirdest thing was is he didn't have a mouth either. What was he talking about?
You brat! You brought them!
The teenager tried to hit the IKEA employee, but it was useless. From 1 second to the next, with a slight movement of the hand, the monster snapped the teenager's neck, who fell lifeless to the ground. I didn't have time to see the scene as the monster, along with 2 others that appeared behind him, were looking at me. I'm sorry, sir. This is not customer service hours. Come with us. We will have to take you to the exit. As I said these words, the 3 of them approached me, but not like the other one had done before. This time, they were walking fast, so fast that it looked like they were running. Their distorted faces seemed to be in motion as if they were changing shape with every second, and their hands, their veiny hands were hardened. It was as if they were ready to grab my little neck and do the same to me as they did to the teenager. I ran as fast as I could. I spun around. Somehow I had to lose them. Nothing worked. They were still behind me. I had turned around so many times that I had no idea where they were. I hid behind an oven and saw some men passing by. I think I lost them. I looked at them while they were leaving, and something caught my attention. There were only 2 of them. Where was the 3rd one? Sir, by being here, you are violating our work rules. This is a forbidden area. My body hurt a lot, and the man had not finished his attack. He was coming at high speeds towards me. Crying, I looked for something to defend myself, but there was nothing.
Mom, Dad, I'm sorry.
When the man was only a few steps away, I realized that there was a door behind me. Was it covered by the appliances? With the last bit of strength I had left, I opened the door and got in. That was the exit door. Suddenly, I was outside the IKEA. There were people walking around and cops nearby.
Hey, I found him! He's here!
Everything happened very fast. From 1 second to the next, I had several policemen near me grabbing me. They took me to my parents, who came running a few meters away. Between tears and reprimands, my parents told me all sorts of things, but I don't remember anything. I just fell asleep, and after that, I only remember being in the hospital with a broken arm. I spent years without talking or investigating the subject. When I was older, I was encouraged to investigate, and to my surprise, I was not the only one who lived through what I lived. Apparently, there was a fictitious foundation that investigated these anomalies, and the IKEA was one called SCP-3008. This may have bothered me a lot when I was young, but to tell you the truth, I don't care anymore. Every time I remember what I experienced that day, I don't want anyone to believe me or ask me what had happened. I will never set foot in an IKEA again in my life.
I like social media, although at first I used a pseudonym for all of my social media platforms. I ended up switching to my name, Adrian, a few years down the road. It just felt more natural after I had built up a following. Recently, a trend had gained attraction on the internet. People were staying overnight in stores, filming their experience and uploading it to YouTube, so I decided to try it out. Big mistake, guys. Don't try this. I decided to pick IKEA for my overnight challenge because of its sheer size and the fact that there were no surveillance cameras. I thought that since I was doing the challenge by myself, it would be safer. Little did I know that I was wrong. For this reason, I began carefully building my plan as to how I was going to stay the night in such a large store. I decided to hide in one of the wardrobes until closing time. My trusty cameraman, Jason, volunteered to tag along with me to the store.
Adrian, this vid is going to be so sick, man. I really think we'll hit it big time, viral with this one. I agree, dude. People eat this type of content up, and I want to be the one who brings them something they're never going to forget. Now, let's get this show on the road.
We chatted as we were packing the car, taking cameras and a few other items with us, like snacks and a few blankets. When we arrived at IKEA, it was already dark. We both felt an uneasy feeling in the air as soon as we stepped foot inside the store. I made sure to keep Jason busy for the better part of an hour as I went around and surveyed the place before finally settling in on our hiding spot, the wardrobe section. I made sure to be extra careful as I slipped into one of the wardrobes, making sure that Jason had locked it behind him as we climbed in. We waited for an hour, both giggling and pulling some bits for the camera every once in a while, pretending we almost got caught. In reality, just playing a recording from some other video to make it seem like an employee almost opened the door. The time passed quickly, especially since we had plenty of setup things to do and cameras to position in the wardrobe for when we would come out. As we finished setting up, the lights finally dimmed and the store closed. Jason and I exchanged looks of excitement and almost simultaneously hopped out of the wardrobe.
Whoa, guys, take a look at this. We're all alone in IKEA at night, and it's creepy as hell.
We began to explore the store, taking in all the empty aisles and the eerie silence that followed us. Still, both Jason and I chatted up a storm, so it didn't seem all that bad. As we walked, however, an eerie feeling began to settle in as we noticed subtle movements in the corner of our eyes.
What the hell? What is it, Jason?
I heard Jason yell and turn around to see him pointing toward one of the aisles of IKEA. An empty and black abyss that looked no different than the rest of the store. Jason, however, looked stricken with terror.
What is it, man? Dude, there was a dude there. I saw a pair of eyes. They were glowing in the dark. I swear to God, Adrian, there's someone here.
My heart instantly began to rush with excitement. Jason was playing this up so well. He hadn't told me about this bit, but I was certainly going to enjoy it. I was absolutely going to play along with this and let it carry this video to the top. As I walked toward the dark aisle, though, I glanced back at Jason. His face was white, and he was looking at me like I was crazy.
No, seriously, man, there's someone here.
I laughed, still not taking him seriously, and turned back toward the aisle. There, staring back at me, were a pair of eyes floating in the darkness.
What the?
I asked, my voice echoing through the empty store. Before I knew it, a figure emerged from the darkness and ran past me. I could tell it was a man, but I couldn't make out his face. He was wearing raggedy clothes and had long hair that was matted to his head. Screaming what seemed like jumbled nonsense, he launched himself at Jason, tackling him to the ground. Screaming, I ran toward them and tried to help Jason up as the man ran away into the darkness.
Dude, are you okay? Let's get out of here, man.
We both turned and began to run toward the exit. Our only thought was to get away from the store as quickly as possible. As we ran, though, I quickly began to outpace Jason. He was panting and struggling to keep up with me, clearly shaken by the experience. The door was right in front of me. I began to feel a sense of relief. We'd made it, and the content was going to be incredible. Suddenly, though, I heard a soft thud and a grunt from Jason. I turned around and saw the eyes of the old man, his raggedy clothes, as he grabbed Jason by the neck with long and gray fingers, pushing what seemed like a chef's knife directly through Jason's chest. Jason gurgled, his eyes widening in the shock as he slowly collapsed. The breath left his body without him ever being capable of saying another word. His eyes slowly becoming lifeless as I watched helplessly. I was frozen, unable to do anything but watch as the old man bent down and began to lap in the blood spilling out of Jason's body. The old, frazzled man squatted there with his hands holding the body of my friend, his eyes filled with the sort of hunger that only a starving man would have. Pulling the knife from the body of my friend, he began to lick his tongue down the blade as he let the sharp edge run into the surface of his tongue, cutting him as more blood began to drip onto the ground and paint the floor red. I snapped back to reality and began to run as fast as I could away from the store, screaming for help. I'm never going to forget the image of Jason lying there, lifeless, with the old man gulping his blood down his throat. And it's a lesson to all of us. Never underestimate the risks associated with these so-called overnight challenges. Be safe out there. As soon as I left the building, I contacted the police, who quickly responded and arrested the old man. It turns out that he was a homeless man who had been living in the store, using it as shelter. It was one of the most traumatic experiences of my life, and I'm still haunted by the image of Jason lying there in the aisle, lifeless. Still, I can't help but think about it in a pretty positive light. I mean, the video got like 1 million views and even made the news. I guess like all bad things, there are some advantages to them.